Hello and welcome to the Planter Podcast, where we talk about gardening and try to make it easier for you to grow your own food. I am one of your hosts, Peter Keefe, and I garden in Connecticut.
I'm Mylan Turner, an urban gardener based in Atlanta, Georgia.
And I'm Erin. I'm a market gardener in Huron County, Ontario, Canada.
Hello. So it is like a little peek behind the scenes when we're recording this. It is June 22nd, and that's like a really good time of the year to be gardening, and it's also really hard too for different reasons. So we're just going to be talking about what's going on in our gardens right now, things that we're struggling with, if we've haven't had any wins, and just what we're looking forward to in July, I guess. So, who wants to go first? We should really next time think about this ahead of time. Who's going first?
I think I'm probably the earliest, or should say the furthest along, right?
Yes, yeah, probably.
So we hit first day of summer, like everybody else.
Hmm.
We've had a pretty mild late spring. We've had a good bit of rain. So the garden is really growing and really thriving right now. So the name of the game for late June for me is waiting, right? So I've got tons of green tomatoes on the vines. I think I checked in and they're finally starting to have some of my earliest ones start to blush. So I'm going to start harvesting those this week. Um, Peppers are coming along. My eggplants are fruiting. And the last thing, two things I've got tomatillos, they're further behind. And then I'm going to be looking to harvest potatoes here in the next couple of weeks. So the nightshades are thriving right now.
It is amazing how far ahead of me you are.
Yeah, I think I got in the ground, what, a month and a half before you this year?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, that probably lines up with because I'm like thinking about my tomatoes, and I don't have a flower on them yet, so it's still gonna be quite a while. But
Yep.
they're doing their thing. It's how it should be here in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And I'm more or less in the same boat. I have a few testers that I started really early that are flowering, but then all the ones like the main season ones, they're still just, putting on some vegetative growth, getting acclimatized. It's also been kind of cool. Like I don't know how things have been for you guys. I have all kinds of complaints about the weather this year. But the last few weeks, it's been very cool and very rainy, actually. So that's not making the tomatoes so happy.
We've had a little bit of that, but it's weird. It fluctuates between really hot, like
Mm-hmm.
hotter than it should be, and then
Mm-hmm.
cooler than it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
there's only been a few days where it's what it should be. It's it's been one or the other. And it's been pretty dry lately. I've been watching the weather, and it says, "Oh, it'll rain," and then the rain never really comes. It's
Hmm.
very isolated. So I've actually had to go out and like water. I just reseeded my lawn this year, so I had to water the grass, which I never do. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, geez, even if the grass is struggling, it's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mylan, I'm guessing it's just hot, hot, hot.
So we've got actually a combination of like what you all have been experiencing. We were on the tail end of a historic drought, and then we finally started to get rain. We didn't get much rain in April or May, and then for a 2 week stretch here in late May, early June, we got rain almost every day, every other day, off and on for about 2 weeks. So a lot of people were complaining about that, but I was thrilled because
Yeah.
that allowed for the garden to take off. And Peter, I actually had an emergency septic system replacement, and I had to put down grass seed as well. So
Yikes.
I was
Yeah.
actually extremely happy to have that rain because I'm putting down warm season. I'm sorry, warm, yeah, warm season grass
Mm.
um, to do like a turf type lawn, and you have to keep it wet every day for the first 14 to 30 days. And then with the rain, I actually got sprouts at the 14-day mark. So I was thrilled with that.
Nice.
Nice. And that's usually kind of tough to get in your climate to,
Extremely, yeah.
yeah.
So the rain helped me. I know, people who don't garden and who don't grow things don't love the rain, but if you're trying to grow things, then it's your best friend. My tomatoes they show a little wear that, is typical this time of year, but I've got really flush, healthy leaves, loaded with fruit. And like I said, we're just kind of waiting on them to ripen. And it's a race against the hornworms. I got my
Mm-hmm.
first two last week. So that's what we're fighting against right now.
Yuck.
Yeah. I'm thankfully I don't get too many hornworms where I am. But my tomatillos and the potatoes also get these cucumber beetles, little
Mm-hmm.
like the yellow and black striped beetles.
Hmm.
And those things are just the first year I grew tomatillos, I didn't see a single one, and then every
Mm-hmm.
year after that, they just
Mm-hmm.
they find them. I guess that they're buried in the soil somewhere. So yeah, but there's it's pretty easy to keep those in control if you just squish them or use something like spinosad to get rid of them. Um, and then eventually the tomatillos, at least in my experience, grow like gangbusters, and then the bugs can't keep up with them, and then you're good.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, it is really interesting how cyclical the pests are. Like, so for example, last year we were swarming here in mosquitoes, and I was like, this is a nightmare. Like, I can't do
yeah,
this. Like, being outside sweaty with like an insect net on, I was like, oh my goodness. And this year, because we started really, really dry and then switched to wet, I've seen like 2 mosquitoes all year. But then on the flip side, last year, um, I had beautiful radishes and salad turnips all year long, no problem. And I didn't cover them with netting because I only have so much netting to go around. And I was like, well, it's mostly the flea beetle that bothers them. And like, most people don't really eat the leaves, so it's fine. So it was all great. This
mhm,
year, I'm getting crushed by the cabbage maggot or potentially the seed corn maggot. They look almost identical, but
yeah.
they do share host species, and it's been nasty. So now I'm having to cover all my radishes and turnips. So it's just kind of crazy how from one year to the other, it's like, oh, this is fine, and then all of a sudden the pest shows up, and then it can also be to, I guess once they know in the area, it's like, oh, hey, there's radishes here every year, and there's debris, and so then it kind of propagates.
It's really hard. You've even a normal home gardener can't cover everything too, and then you don't always want to because the bees have to pollinate most of it too. So like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess you just get used to eating things with holes in them. At least when it comes to my lettuce, I'm like, yeah, it's Swiss cheese lettuce, but it's good, It's fresh.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned as a home gardener that, it doesn't have to be picture perfect to still be healthy and nutritious and safe to eat. A
Mm-hmm.
little pest damage is
Mhm.
well within reason, especially if you're an organic gardener.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot expect everything to look like it's in the grocery store ads because that's just not realistic. You're
It
going to have some pests.
mhm. It really makes you notice uh probably just how much pesticides they use it for those grocery store lettuce heads and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of other crops too, where
Absolutely.
they're picture perfect and they're picture perfect for a reason.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes growing at home so much more worth it.
Yep.
Yep, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, and with the market, you get a little bit of both. Like there's some customers that, really want, and sometimes it makes that, like some people come and it's like, oh, I'm having a dinner party. Like they want something really,
Yeah.
and a lot of times you can deliver that with the right techniques. It's not like you have to throw up your hands and be like, oh, it's always going to be like this. But the times where it's like, oh, I should have covered this at this time of year, but I didn't, or, oh, I just ran out of netting. Then you get some customers and they're like, oh, it's okay. I like to see the holes. It means that it is organic. And I'm like, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Those are your best customers,
I
probably.
appreciate
Yeah.
you.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like you said, as long as there's some balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to sell somebody something that's shredded with holes and starting to rot, but
Mm-hmm.
you can say one or two. It's natural.
Mm-hmm.
I laugh sometimes at some of the social media posts where somebody will post something from the grocery store and it's like, oh, this bag of lettuce had a grasshopper in it. And it's like, yeah, that's because
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
that's lettuce that was grown outdoors and, harvested and processed. And that's
Mm-hmm.
where the grasshoppers live. So
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
that, means you've got fresh grown stuff. So I just kind of laugh at that sometimes.
Mm-hmm. For
My
sure.
lettuce always has pine needles in it because there's a big pine tree near my garden, and it'll just lose some needles, and then I'll be chopping up the lettuce, and then they're like, "Oh, I guess we're getting some extra citric acid in our salad."
Some pine
I'm sure it's
flavor.
good.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's good for you, right?
it is edible. I actually did this little experiment where I saw online you could take white pine and kind of ferment it and make something that's kind of like a Sprite.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried that. It tasted terrible.
Oh
But it
no.
is edible. I learned that certain types of pine, and in my case, the eastern white pine, is perfectly safe to consume, although it tastes terrible. So
Mm-hmm.
probably don't.
Yeah, it is interesting how many of the weeds and things in the garden that we yank out are actually edible, very nutritious. In some cases, tasty. In some cases, maybe not so tasty, but still healthy. So that's
What
like
are
a whole
some?
different area.
Yeah, we should do an exploration of that because I don't really know which ones. But
Mm-hmm.
when you're weeding, you ever just snack on
I
I'll do
have.
that with a dandelion sometimes, but
Yeah. So the
uh,
one that I will nibble a little bit, and it's actually kind of tasty, is the purslane. So
mhm.
it's got kind of like a citrusy flavor and it's kind of juicy because it's sort of succulent. So that one is actually like, I've never brought it in the house and cooked with it, but I just tried it and I'm like, that's not too bad. I could see eating that. Apparently lamb's quarters is quite edible. I mean, don't, this is what I've heard. I'm not an expert forager or anything.
Yeah,
But
disclaimer here.
yeah. Do, double check, triple check, and make sure you're identifying things correctly, right? Of course. There's lots of good information out there from people that, do this regularly. But lamb's quarters apparently is quite edible, quite nutritious, spinach like. I find it's okay. I think it would be better cooked. Um,
Oh, I just Googled lamb's quarter and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is prolific in my garden.
Yeah.
You can
I
eat it?
actually,
Okay.
yeah, I worked with someone and he said that there was a lady, I don't remember which country she was from, somewhere in Asia, and she would actually come to their farm and pick like the lamb's quarter to eat it, to cook it, and then they got the free weeding. So it's like, oh, that's the deal.
Wow, yeah, sign me up for that. Someone wants to come
Yeah,
pick the
pick all
lamb's
the
quarter out
lamb's
of my
quarter.
garden? Sure.
And then the other one I kind of want to try is fleabane. So it's got these little daisy-like flowers. Again, be very careful. There's lots of daisy-like flowers. So do your research online, check the pictures, check the key traits. But apparently you can make a tea out of the flowers. It's quite nice. So that's the next one on the list to give a shot.
Wow. It's just I'm Googling. So fleabane, according to my research, it's a little. It's got little white and yellow flowers, yellow on the inside, and then lamb's quarter is like a very upright. I don't know really how to describe it. Um, uh, green leaves, I guess. You just got to Google it. And then the purslane is like a little succulent looking thing that is like low and creeps around the garden. I'm sure most of our gardeners have at least one of these in their garden. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but again, disclaimer: we're not experts. Confirm before you go
Mm-hmm.
snacking.
Yep. But it's
Uh,
just interesting. Like some of these plants that we hate and they are so aggressive, they do have purposes. I heard the same thing about creeping Charlie. We have a fair bit of creeping Charlie around here, and apparently it has some qualities to it. But for me, it's just quite a nuisance. So
yeah, yeah. That's like mint. Also, is perfectly edible, but if you have it trying to invade your garden, and it's like all over. This is back at the community garden plot. It was just creeping in through all four edges of my plot, and after weeding it for a whole day, I had no intention of making a mint tea or anything like that. I just wanted
like
to
I
be done with
hate
it.
mint.
Yeah,
I never want to see mint again.
yeah.
So speaking of which, I kind of boo-booed a little bit, and I'm paying for it this year. And I should have known better, but I didn't. But last year, I left a lot of the arugula and radishes to flower because I wasn't planning on flipping beds. So I was like,
Hmm.
okay, well, they're keeping the weeds down. The bees love them. They're going crazy. Like, this is great. Um, left them a little too long. They went to seed. But I was like, well, you know what? It's a heck of a lot easier to weed a volunteer garden crop than it is to weed an aggressive weed, right? So I wasn't too concerned. And then at the end of the year, I did pull all the debris. And I have a lot of arugula and radish volunteers
That's a good
in
thing and a bad
convenient
thing, I guess.
places.
Is it
Yeah,
just
it's
everywhere?
well, it's not everywhere. It's in certain beds. So, for example, I had a carrot bed that had a lot of arugula popping up, but it's not ideal because the arugula grows so much faster and so much more aggressively. Like carrots are so slow and
Yeah.
tiny, and everything overtakes them.
Mm.
So that was not ideal, the arugula and the carrots. And then I also have some of it coming up in some of the aisleways. So I have like my tomatoes, and then on either side I have like a big plume of arugula that I have to hack back. So yeah. So anyways, word to the wise. One or two volunteers is okay, but they can in some cases be just as annoying as the weeds.
Yeah. I let my lettuce go to seed, and I've got a bunch of volunteers this year, and I don't think they really take over as much as what you're describing.
Mm-hmm.
So I am actually really happy with, I let a few of them go to seed every year, and then I've got some random lettuce growing throughout the gardens, and
Yep.
yeah. And then the thing that I got a lot of volunteers for this year are tomatillos, because each
Yeah, me
each
too.
tomatillo's got like hundreds of little tiny seeds. And then so I just had all these like little green things popping up in my tomatillo bed, and you'd see them as little clusters where the tomatillo fell,
Mm-hmm.
and it was perfect because this year my tomatillos that I tried to grow from seed didn't actually germinate, but then these germinated, so I've got a whole bunch of tomatillo plants, and actually had to weed them out until I just had just a few to make it a good amount, not crowd out all the other plants.
Mm-hmm.
That was going to be my volunteer win as well. I have three that sprouted. One was like way ahead of the game, and so I was kind of sad because I know I needed multiple tomatillos
Hmm.
to pollinate. And then finally, I saw one more sprout in the bed, and then I grow in raised beds, and I saw one more sprout kind of in the lawn off to the side, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to let these grow together. They're nice, evenly spaced, strangely enough.
Cool.
And like I said,
That's
once
neat.
they all start to flower, then I'll finally have a good crop of tomatillos.
Nice. We have some tomatillo volunteers too, and most of them are puny, but there is one or two that I'm like, you're you're pretty close to some of my transplants. Like not quite, but like that's a nice looking plant.
Do tomatillos do pretty well at the market? Or
They
are
actually,
people
yeah, think
Okay.
they actually do quite well. So we're not near a big urban center. So we don't have a super diverse,
Hmm.
population. Not a lot of people that would, traditionally use tomatillos in their cooking. But when I describe them to people, a lot of people like to pick them up and give them a try. I do find we're in a market where people will pick up unique things. It's kind of touristy. A lot of
Oh,
times people
that's
are on
the good
vacation.
thing about a farmer's market is you could try new things that you won't see in a grocery store. So
For sure, yeah,
yeah.
and some people come up with really so for us, my husband is from Mexico, so we use it in a lot of the traditional green salsas and that kind of thing, and that's how we know them. But I have this one customer; she's very regular, and I convinced her to try them, and she said she likes to put them in her stir fry. She says it sort of thickens the sauce in her stir fry because
Oh,
you know
okay.
how they're a little like gelatinous, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna have to try that. So that's kind of cool when when they come up with create just different out of the box ways of using things when you're sort of you have your blinders on in terms of when
Yeah.
you use it.
I think I've only ever used them for salsa, but yeah, you're right. Like when that salsa thickens,
Mm-hmm.
it's like Jello.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, that would be really good to just and it's got some good flavor too. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So I guess we kind of like went all over the place here, but what are we looking forward to for July? What's the next steps in our garden? Is anyone planting anything? Because I think I'm pretty much done for a while, at least until I guess July is probably when I need to start thinking about my fall garden. So,
I'll be doing a full season reset. We get what we call a second summer, second spring here in Georgia, where there's a period in July where it hits 100 or so degrees for maybe a week or two, and everything kind of goes suspended during that time. That's too hot for pollination to occur in most plants. The tomatillos seem to thrive, okra seems to do really well, but like the tomatoes will stall out. So my goal with my determinate tomatoes is to get them done, by that point, and we're very very close. So once that hits, that'll be time to pull those determinate plants out and start planting in more. So I'm going to do a second round of smaller dwarf determinate type tomatoes, and then come back in with another round of some of my nightshades
so
for mid July, and then end of July we'll start preparing for the fall garden. So another round of brassicas and things of that nature.
those tomatoes, are you starting those inside or are you direct seeding them?
I start them inside or a hybrid approach. Actually, I'll put them out in my greenhouse if it's not too hot. If it is too hot, what I'll do is I'll let them sprout indoors and then get them outside literally as soon as they sprout. Right. So they need sometimes the temperature indoors is, well, not sometimes, but most often the temp indoors is more consistent. So that 70-degree, 75-degree mark is where they'll germinate faster. They
Hmm.
don't germinate as well when they're in those 90, 100-degree temps. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll put them in a tray, let them sprout, and then as soon as they sprout, I'll get them outside in a greenhouse or partially shaded environment just until they start to put on some size.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Cool.
Aaron, what are you planting right now? Or are you done?
Oh, it's
You're
never
probably succession planting
done.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's a little different this year. So last year, being our first year, um, I really just kind of went seasonally. So I went from cool season crops into the warm season crops, and then back into the cool season crops at the tail end of the season. This year, my goal was to try to keep consistent supply of most of the regular crops. So like your radish, your spinach, your lettuce heads, those kinds of things.
Hmm.
So we're trying to plant those every few weeks, not always successfully. I had a bit of a gap when I was planting my tomatoes, the week or week and a half where I was planting tomatoes. Planted like 185 tomatoes.
Wow.
Wow.
so so that kind of set me back a little bit. But we're and there's also, you best laid plans, right? But then the reality never quite matches up with your plans too. So, some beds you go through slower, some beds you go through quicker. So we're kind of in catch up mode now on some of those, crops that you want to have consistently every week. So it's just planting more radish, more spinach, more arugula. Gonna get another round of carrots in the ground. So those are all things, even in a home garden, you don't have to set it and forget it, and you don't necessarily have to give up when the heat hits. If you have a way to keep water on it, if you can get some shade on some of these cool season crops, and also variety selection is really, really key. It is possible to get some of these to grow through the summer. It's not easy, like some of them, especially the
Yeah, you
spinach, I
you
find
mentioned
is
spinach. I
really.
was like, wow, that's like hard. But do you have shade
Yeah.
cloth on it?
So I don't. So there's a couple techniques. So first of all, some growers will actually keep the seed in the fridge to try to keep it cool right until when they plant it, to try to prevent that thermal dormancy. You could
Okay.
potentially plant it a little bit deeper in the soil, just so if it's in the top, quarter inch or half inch of the soil, it tends to dry out a little bit more, especially
Hmm.
if you get sandy soil. So you can plant it a little bit deeper. You can do what I think is called pulse watering or relief watering. So basically, just trying to keep the moisture up as much as possible, so that the soil doesn't get too hot. And again, we don't get like maybe quite as extreme of heat as say Milan does in Atlanta as well. So that does help. We are a little bit more temperate here than maybe a lot of our audience, so that does help as well. You can definitely also use shade cloth if you have it though, and we. Where I used to work during the summer, we always put shade cloth on the lettuce heads. That's where we prioritize the shade cloth. So it is possible if you're really determined and you're like, I really want to have fresh greens. And again, just look for those varieties. That's really important. You have to look for heat tolerant, bolt resistant varieties. If you don't choose that, it's going to be a real hard slog in the summertime.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed. I've got probably about 4 or 5 different types of lettuce in the garden, and there's some that bolt like right away, and others that are still chugging along. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
have shade cloth on them. So yeah, and the volunteer lettuce is doing great too. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know
for sure.
what that lettuce is. I think it's like some sort of Simpson seed, something. It's probably
Oh,
a
black
hybrid,
seeded Simpson, maybe.
something like that. Yeah. It, but it's probably been cross-pollinated, and who knows what it is now.
You'll have to keep saving seed from it. Keep.
I I have. Yeah. It'll be my own variety after a while. I'll name it after myself, I guess. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not that
Nice,
egotistical.
nice.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't even try growing lettuce during this time of year down here. Not outdoors anyway. What I will say is I'll start to put some in my hydroponic tower so that I can have some salads and things like that during the summer. Because that's the time where you want, salads. You don't
Hmm.
want, the heavy greens. You want those salad blends, but they just don't work seasonally. Same with cilantro. That was
Mm-hmm.
one of the funniest things I learned is, we want cilantro and dill with our salsa and our pickles, and neither one of them are heat tolerant. So you have to find ways to get around that.
Yep.
Yep.
That's a good reminder. I need to add some. I got a little garden thing over here that I need to start some cilantro and dill in there, and that should hopefully be ready for
Yep.
cucumbers and salsa.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect timing.
And speaking of that, I was while you were talking, I was thinking, okay, what am I gonna do in July, or maybe even now is, and I'm thinking like a second batch of cucumbers might be a good idea for me to
Mm-hmm.
start that now. Whenever those cucumbers, you know, they they go so fast, you know,
Mhm.
especially with the you squash bugs and all that stuff. Maybe I'll have something to replace it. So
Mm-hmm.
actually, might be too soon. I'll give it another week or two,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
and then I'll
always
start.
good to have a backup generation of cucumbers because I find the same like with the cucumber beetles, they transmit
Hmm.
disease. I don't remember off the top of my head which disease. Might be mosaic virus. I can't remember, but they transmit a disease, and once that really takes hold in your cucumbers, then there's just kind of like, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, they're not one that you can typically cover with,
Hmm.
with a little asterisk. They're not one you can typically cover because you want the pollination. So, yeah,
I've
so it's
got
good.
them.
It's good to have a backup
I've
generation.
got them covered right now because I haven't seen any flowers yet.
Yeah,
Um, and I've got one or two varieties that apparently don't need pollination at all. But
nice.
then I've also got a few in there that do require pollination. So if I had planned better, I would have put them in different beds and just had the one that doesn't require pollination just undercover all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but you know, it's too much to have two beds of cucumbers. I just got the one.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it can be tricky too as the plants grow because they're either wanting to go,
Hmm.
horizontal or vertical. So at some
Yep.
point they're like they're just sprawling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So speaking of the vine borers, so this is kind of interesting. So I noticed last year where I had my scallop squash plants. Right now I have tatsoi in there and it's under insect netting, and I'm seeing some of the vine borer moths trapped under the netting. So I'm like, oh,
Oh.
this is really interesting. So like two things. Number one is it's a good signal as to when to start looking out for them because it's like, oh, they're here. And number two, I was like, could I purposely do this from year to year? Like, could I plan that in my rotation to where I'm netting over where the previous vining crops were? So, anyways, I don't know.
And
I
just
don't think.
put them where they belong in a little bug prison.
Yeah. I don't know.
Gosh,
I mean, I don't know that
I
it's going
hate
to be
those so
the
much.
cure all, but yeah, when I saw them, I'm like, you evil things.
Yeah.
I'm sure they serve a purpose in the environment. I'm sure they do something, but they are
They're like,
truly just destructive. So,
yeah. They're probably my number one arch nemesis in gardening. Uh, yeah, they definitely are.
I
But and I
don't
know
know.
a
It's
lot of.
hard. It's hard to choose. There's so many. For me
Yeah.
right now, it's these darn cabbage maggots. Oh my god, they're disgusting.
Hmm.
Oh.
Mine is right now, I already mentioned it, but the hornworms, they eat the leaves and the fruit. And that was the one that I found like half a tomato was eaten. And I was like, come on.
Yeah.
I've been waiting on that tomato. And, we had a discussion online, and some people do different things like relocate them to other areas to let them, what's the phrase, to let them mature,
Mm-hmm.
because they become a moth. And, Ren very much is all about moths and insects like that. So they like to either let them be or transplant them to different areas. And, we
Mm-hmm.
just say, make the decision that's best for you and your garden. And, that's kind of why we all garden on our own. And there isn't really a right way or a wrong way. Just do what works for you. Or like they say,
Mm-hmm.
your mileage may vary.
Yeah.
100%. Yep. No. And
Yeah.
and there's so much different context too, right? Like, in one garden it's like, oh, they're not maybe so bad, and in
Hmm.
another garden it's like, okay, if I don't deal with this, I'm never getting a crop. So there's so much that's context specific as well.
Yep.
So yeah, it's hard. It's very difficult in gardening to take a piece of advice and then just generalize across the board because there's so much nuance to it depending on where you are and how you garden and what's important to you.
Yep.
Hmm.
And then just watching the population too, right? If you only get one or two, that might not be so bad. But in my area, we get them in troves, and
Mm-hmm.
they'll clear your garden in a matter of days. So I
Wow.
do make
Nice.
the decision to use organic treatment. Peter mentioned
Mm-hmm.
it earlier. Spinosad works well.
Hmm.
BT works well for me. So I kind of rotate between those two just to make sure they don't develop a tolerance for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I've only seen one in my entire time gardening, so I don't even.
Oh wow,
And it's the one time I saw it, I'm like, oh my goodness, these things they're monstrous, and you
they're
know,
quite large,
yeah. And
Mhm.
I'm
quite
like,
intimidating.
okay, I can deal with squishing those little cucumber beetles I talked about because they're tiny, but uh, the, the tomato hornworm's much more intimidating.
Mhm.
And they scream and emit
Ooh.
this green ooze when you do squish.
Oh.
Ugh.
Oh. Oh. Yeah.
But
No.
birds
They.
love them, chickens
Mhm.
love them, so those are kind of some natural ways to deal with them.
You could relocate them to the bird feeder.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I do. I just put them out in the open, and it's like if you miraculously manage to make your way back or survive, that's great. But probably a bird's gonna find you.
Yep. Circle of life. Yeah. Uh,
Luckily, the one pest that was a real kind of problem last year as well for us was Japanese beetle. I also haven't. Maybe it's still a little early, maybe, but I really haven't seen any Japanese beetle activity this year. So touch
oh,
wood.
yeah, yeah. A lot of it's weather dependent. I too, I got a Japanese beetle trap last year and didn't really do much. And I'm hoping that it's just because we don't have too many of them. I
Mhm.
was trying to like head it off and keep the population under control, but I don't think it's too big of an issue here.
Mhm.
I've heard of it being more of a thing in warmer climates too. So,
Mhm.
Yeah,
uh,
we get them really, really bad. I have not seen them yet. If they are listening to this podcast, please go see Aaron and Peter and say they
No.
they wreak havoc on our gardens. And
Mhm.
it's one of the things I would say, to gardeners that are listening, make sure that you're following kind of some of your local, Facebook groups, next door groups that are focused on gardening, because you'll get notifications when you're starting to pop up in other people's gardens, and you can take action a little bit earlier
mhm.
to kind of protect your garden. And don't go crazy and start blanket spraying or anything like that. But that's
Mhm.
just the way that you know to start watching out for the pest pressure to ramp up, and you can take steps to protect your garden.
Mhm.
Definitely.
For sure. So, besides the pest and the planting, the other fun thing that is going to take a lot of time in July is weeding.
Oh yeah.
So, so this is just the time of year. It's the time of year when the grass is growing. It's the time of year when the weeds are growing, and then also other things are busy. Like there's a lot of planting. Life just in general is busy.
Hmm.
Um, and with all the rain, it's like just a sea of weeds. So this is the time of year to start, battling them back a little bit, getting, regaining ground, so to speak.
Yeah. I'm still battling weeds amongst my bed of carrots because like carrots are so tricky because you need to wait so long for them to germinate and you can't there's such small seeds you can't really cover them with any sort of mulch.
Mhm.
So if you've got tricks, please let me know because I'm just pulling like grass and clovers from amongst my carrots and around this time of the year I usually end up going on vacation or something and then I come back and it's like boom, tons of weeds everywhere.
Mhm.
So I know a lot of people this time of year are experiencing the same thing, especially if you get a lot of rain, which is great for everything, including the
Mhm.
weeds.
So,
Um,
not so shameless plug, but that's where our app Planter comes into play, right? The calendar kind of tells you what those earlier periods of when you can grow and when the later periods you can grow. So, it's not just, temperature, but it's also the conditions for other things to grow. So, make sure you're following your calendars, make sure you're doing succession plantings to kind of get around some of those challenges.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. I did not start my carrots super early this year, so that probably would have really helped. Uh, Give them a head start on all the weeds.
Mhm.
Yep, that's what you're trying to do. Is like I said, get them in their kind of optimal growing conditions, and those are a little different from what the optimal growing conditions for the weeds because, you know, depending on your environment, the weeds can be very aggressive. I personally deal with spurge, which
Hmm.
is a super tiny seed, but it embeds itself everywhere. To the point, my green stalk gardens, I harvested my garlic, my onions, and my cool season crops out of those. And I just had them empty for like maybe a week or two. And I looked up and there's just spurge popping up everywhere, even in like the holes in the watering disc, seeds have dropped down in there.
Oh
So
my gosh.
that's a mistake I made, leaving soil bare. If you're
Hmm.
not using your stuff and it is weed season, get your pots mulched or covered, just to make your weeding easier in the future.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's the problem I'm facing is mostly grass that I did not take care of last year, seeded, and is growing this year again amongst all the carrots.
Hmm.
Yep.
And that was the one bed that I covered most of them with cardboard over the winter. And this one is the one that I waited the longest to cover. Uh, so, yeah. Use those Amazon boxes or leftover straw at the end of the year and give yourself a head start next
Hmm.
spring.
If you don't have at least one bed covered in weeds, I'm wondering if you're actually doing gardening or not. We just don't post those pictures.
Hmm. Well, and again, a lot of it is kind of the same as with the pest prevention and the netting. Like a lot of it comes down to prioritization. So one of the things is so take care of the weeds when they're young, when they're tiny. And that's the most time effective way to do it because then you can just use a hoe, you can use a cultivator, you can, scuffle the soil, and all those little thread stage weeds die with very minimal effort. Once they get past that stage, and that can happen in a matter of days or a week, once they start to grow up, then you're either hacking at them or you're hand pulling them. And then from a time perspective, you know, it's infinitely more time consuming. So if you have, sometimes you kind of have to make priority decisions. If you have a bed that's a bit overrun, it's like, okay, I'm going to take care of all these beds now that are at the thread stage that I can, very quickly get through 5 or 6 beds of weeding. And then, later on when I have the time, I'll come back and I'll do the big hand weed on this bed. But it's like, sometimes you just have to prioritize staying on top of what you can stay on top of, and then kind of come back to, okay, now I have time to tackle this big weeding project that got out of hand for whatever reason.
Yep, yep.
And honestly,
Uh,
some, like in the market garden, some, there have been beds where it's just like, you know what, I'm just going to let it go. It's not a priority crop, or I have another succession coming. It's just not worth the time to weed this bed.
mhm.
Just, sometimes you do just have to start with a clean slate, and that's okay too, right? You have to think about what's the best use of my time and of the space.
And like
100%.
I said,
Yeah.
not just for market gardeners, for the home gardeners too, right? If you're working
Mm-hmm.
a 9 to 5, you've got a family. Every now
Mm-hmm.
and then, you're going to lose a bed. You're going to lose, one or two. So that's one of the situations that I found myself in this year. So I'm getting ready to trim. This one bed got taken over by grasses, so I'm going to cut that down, uh, and I'm going to silage tarp just that one bed to give that a little time to take that one back. But don't feel like you're a bad gardener when this happens because this is a part of life and a part of gardening, and it's a natural process.
Mm-hmm.
But that weed, that weed or grass in that bed does serve, some benefit. It does keep the microbiology in that bed active during that time. Once
Mm-hmm.
you, as long as you don't let it go to seed, you can cut that back, put that back into the soil, and let that nutrition build back up as you prepare to use it again.
Yep. 100%. And that's sometimes part of my emergency weeding, especially in the walkways and the aisleways. I don't necessarily have time to hoe through those constantly, but sometimes I'll just run a lawnmower through it
Mm-hmm.
and just, and it's like you said, it's not getting rid of the weeds, but they are covering the soil. It is something, slightly better than bare soil. And as long as you're not letting them go to seed, I would be a little bit cautious if you have perennial weeds. That's a little bit of a different story. Those ones you really have to truly battle to keep them from, spreading by roots and things like that. But if you have annuals, it's like, okay, step one, try to stop it from going to seed as much as humanly possible. And that'll make your life easier, the longer you garden.
Completely agree.
Definitely. So I think this is a good spot to stop the podcast. If you have a question for us, please email us, question@planter.garden, or ask us on social media, and we'll be happy to answer it on the next episode of the podcast. And until then, thank you everyone for liking, subscribing, listening, sharing with your friends, all that. And I actually do have a very special outro. We played this, I think, last year or maybe the year before, but it is the weed song. I'm going to play it at the very end after the outro. So stick around for that. And everyone, good luck battling those weeds and bugs, and hopefully you get some good veggies along the way too. So until next time, bye.
Gotta take a stand against those weeds. They're getting out of hand. I'm a veggie gardener. I got dreams, but these damn weeds, they're ruining everything. Scream all day, all night, pulling them all alone, but they keep coming back like a twisted clone. I dig, I yank, I try to make them cease, but these stubborn weeds just won't release. Please, please, I wanna grow my veggies, I wanna see them thrive, but these pesky weeds, they just won't let me survive. They're like a wanted guest, overstaying.